So this video looks at the 5 ways to grow your profits. Whilst the principles are quite simple, there is a bit of detail and it's covered quite quickly. So if you need to pause and rewind or watch it again, please do so. Alternatively, if you would like a live demonstration with your numbers, give us a call. We'd be delighted to help. We've run countless projects for all sorts of businesses, and we know there are really just 5 things that drive the bottom line. The first looks at the speed at which you are able to acquire new customers, your acquisition rate. Can you add 5% new customers each year or 25%? This is a measure of your marketing and sales effectiveness. The second is what we call your defection rate, the speed at which you are losing customers. There are many possible reasons for losing customers, and we'll explore some as we go through the session, but it's the rate at which customers opt to go somewhere else. The third area looks at how often customers come back and buy from you, your transaction frequency. And this also links with the fourth point of how much they buy each time they buy from you, the transaction value. The final part is all about the prices you charge and the gross profit margins you achieve. There is a final element to a profit improvement plan, and that's to ensure all your business costs are effectively managed and your business is well run. But we don't like to look at cutting costs as a way of making profit, so we're skipping that altogether in this session. To look at these 5 issues and how they all affect the bottom line, we developed a financial tool to calculate the impact of potential changes we might want to make. In this session, we've simplified it into screenshots just to make it easier to follow. But normally we do that real time with customers, playing around with what if we change this, what would happen, if we change that, what would happen, to get a much more interactive session with each client on what drives their profitability. So let's take a look at a typical example. So these numbers are rounded approximate numbers from a real project that we ran, and they're just to illustrate the financial dynamics of the 5 ways to grow your profits. So as you can see from this side, we're starting with a business that turns over £10 million. It buys £7.5 million worth of stuff to sell, and therefore it makes a gross profit of £2.5 million. 25% profit margin. What we then do is we look at the overheads, the cost of running the business, and we split those between costs which are fixed and costs which are variable. Now you need to understand that in the short term, the vast majority of costs are actually fixed. If you have a quiet day, you don't turn all the lights off. If you have a busy day, you don't run around recruiting extra people just for that one busy day. Over a longer period, you may open branches or close branches or recruit people or get rid of people, but in the short term, most costs are fixed. What that leaves us with is a bottom line in this example of about £250,000 on the 10 million turnover business. The next thing we want to do is work out where that turnover is coming from. So in this example, we asked the customer, how many live accounts do you have on your system? I think he said somewhere around 1,500, but when we looked at that, a vast majority of those were actually old dormant accounts that they felt were still customers, but they really weren't. So we identified what we felt were 800 active accounts. We then look at the acquisition rate, how good they are at winning new customers, and we found that they opened about 80 new accounts in the previous year, so their acquisition rate is about 10%. We then try and find their defection rate. That's quite hard because on the whole, customers don't tell you they've left, they simply stop buying from you. But when we worked out, okay, accounts that haven't had any transactions for say 12 months are probably cold accounts, we found a defection rate similar to 10%. It wasn't exactly the same, but we made it the same just to make the maths of this calculation easier for people to follow. So what we had was 800 customers, we grew it by 10%, it went backwards by 10%. So at the end of the year, we still had 800 customers, but a slightly different group. We then look at how often they buy from the business. And what we found out, of course, like most businesses, is some people buy every week, some people buy once or twice a year. And the average when we worked it out was, interestingly, about once a month as an average, 12 times a year. Your business may be different, but in this example, it was a once a month transaction frequency average. So what we know is 800 customers 12 times a year gives us 9,600 transactions, invoices raised probably, and £10 million divided by 9,600 invoices is £1,041.67 average transaction spend. What we're now going to do is look at these 5 ways to grow your profits, play around with them. What if we can improve them? What will be the impact on profitability? And that impact will be shown on the right-hand side for the individual impact on profitability from each of the 5 changes we make. We then look at the cumulative effect of that. So you may have more customers coming back more often, buying more stuff, paying a higher price. So there is a compounding advantage that increases profits. But it is interesting to know the impact of individual parts as well as the overall profit increase. So let's look at a typical example. If we were planning on a project for a client to improve their profitability, we would look at making small changes in all 5 areas. So we'd start, for example, with the acquisition rate. Can we increase that from 10% to 13%, a 3% improvement? And what will the impact of that be? The question, I guess, is how can you improve the acquisition rate? In my experience, it's really doing what you do already, but with more structure, more diligence, more discipline. What we see in lots of businesses is they have a quiet period, so they do a lot of stuff, send out lots of mail shots, do lots of marketing, knock on lots of doors, and lo and behold, turnover goes up. And then they stop doing those things, and then 6 months down the line, it's quiet again, they start doing it. The cost effectiveness, the impact of doing more of those things more frequently will be an improvement in your acquisition rate. And if you could get 3%, an extra £67,500 straight to the bottom line. We then look at the defection rate. Can we stop customers leaving and going somewhere else? Now the key to that is to understand why most customers leave. There's been plenty of surveys on this, and a sort of amalgam of some of those gives us these kind of numbers. Firstly, smallest group, relationship. The salesperson left and went somewhere else, customer followed them to the new business. Uncle Bob's opened a business round the corner doing what you do. Well, they're going to buy from Uncle Bob because he's their Uncle Bob. The second group was lumped into a miscellaneous category, a small number of issues, maybe inadequate parking, working hours didn't work out quite right. So a small number of individual things added up to about 6% of customers deciding to go and shop somewhere else. The numbers start to get a little bigger from here. So the next category, product or service failure, 9% of customers who left because you screwed up. Something you said you would do, you didn't. Something you said would work, doesn't. You said it'd be there on one day and it didn't turn up for a week. You made a mistake, you caused a problem. Now, in most cases, you can get away with that if your solution to that problem is good, if you deal with it and fix it and impress the customer, but 9% left because you made a mistake. The next category, what they lumped into product, price and time issues, was they wanted product A, you couldn't get them that product at all. They wanted a red one, you could only get a blue one. They wanted the gold option, you only had silver option. You weren't able to provide the product that they wanted. The time issue was they need it this week, you can't get it till next week. They need it urgently, they can't wait. And the price issue was not you were a little bit more expensive. The price issue was they thought it was £100, you were going to charge them £200, miles out on price. So 14% of customers who left you left because you didn't have what they wanted, you couldn't do it on time, or you weren't even in the game on price. The final category, the biggest category by a country mile, 68% of customers who left because of what these surveys collectively described as perceived indifference. The customer just didn't think you cared enough. Now, we all know what that looks like when we go into bars and restaurants and garages. That's people talking about last night's telly when you're standing in front of them waiting to be served. That's people answering the phone to a customer who can't be bothered to turn up in preference to you that has turned up in their business. Or my personal favourite is those businesses who have a huge complex system for dealing with customers that don't pay. If they don't pay on time, they get a reminder, they get a chasing letter, they get a statement saying it's overdue, they get a nasty letter, a legal letter. There is a whole prescribed process of what happens when a customer does not pay your bills when they should do. And then I ask the question, what happens if they pay their bill early? And the answer, of course, in most businesses is absolutely nothing. There are no procedures, no reactions, no behaviours to reward good customers. There are only disciplines and controls to challenge bad customers. That's perceived indifference. And 68% of your lost customers left for that reason. So if we could fix it, if we could get a 2% improvement, so 10% loss of customers drops to 8% loss of customers, then we're at about a £45,000 improvement in bottom line profitability. The next category, transaction frequency, how often they buy. If we could improve this by 0.25% or 0.25 times, that is 1 in 4 customers coming back once more a year. And if we could do that, we're getting, almost £47,000 improvement in the bottom line profitability. How can you do that? Well, I think there is an assumption by many businesses that if a customer wants something, they'll buy it, they'll come back. I don't have to go to them, they will come to me when they want something. We had a client who was a chain of butcher shops. Actually, they had an abattoir, they bought live cattle, they killed them, chopped them up into pieces, sold them out through their butcher shops. And they asked every customer that came in, would you like to join our Ruby Club? Now, the Ruby Club offers recipe ideas, cookery demonstrations, special offers. Give us your email and we'll send this stuff to you. And what they found as a business, where they were able to say, we're actually carrying quite a lot of pork at the moment, let's send out recipe ideas for pork. Lo and behold, next week, they sold a lot of pork. They'd send out invitations to how to cook the perfect roast dinner. And then they sold a lot of roast beef joints. So their proactive communication with customers drove traffic into their stores, increased their transaction frequency. What can you do to increase your transaction frequency? The next category is extra volume, upselling, cross-selling, getting each customer who spends money to spend more with you. So that is somebody who wants to buy 10, persuade them to buy 20. Somebody who wants to buy the silver option, persuade them to buy the gold option. They buy product A, sell them product B at the same time. It's the McDonald's, would you like to buy a drink with that? Would you like to match your meal? Every time there's a sale, offer something extra. And if you could do that, you have a significant improvement, almost £48,000 of extra profit. The next issue, my personal favourite, is price. Can you increase your price? Now, there's 2 ways you can do that. Firstly, you can just put your prices up. Just change your price list, change your systems, your computers, whatever it is you do, put the headline price of your products up 1% in this example. The more common issue is stop giving it away. Monitor your discounts more closely. Stop giving them free delivery. Stop putting extras in with the deal. Same impact, an improvement in the bottom line margin, so it goes up as a result of an effective price increase. And if you could get 1% in this business, that's £100,000 straight to the bottom line. So what you can see is individually, each of those 5 small changes improves profits by just over £307,000. But you do get this compounding impact of more customers, more often, spending more money, etc. So the cumulative impact is just over £321,000, more than doubling the bottom line profit from about a 10% improvement in the top line turnover figure. So that's what we would do if we were running a typical profit improvement project. Right now, what we see as a more common solution is businesses go all out for extra sales. They really push hard to grow their acquisition rate. They do everything they can possibly do. All hands on deck, get out there, knock on doors, shake trees. We want to grow that acquisition rate. We want turnover up. So they set a very high improvement rate, 17%. Now many of them achieve this. That is possible if you do all the right things. They accept they might lose a few customers as a result of their focus being on new customers, not existing customers. They're not targeting any extra transaction frequency. They're not planning to sell any more to the average customer or get a price increase. But if they could get that massive increase in customer numbers, they can still make a significant increase in their bottom line profit. Again, more than doubling of profitability, but in this case, from about a 15% growth in the top line. A lot of effort expended to grow that top line. Now, if it works, it works. In my experience, that isn't what happens. In my experience, what happens is these businesses do go for this massive improvement in their top line, winning new customers, knocking all these doors. They do lose a few customers as a result of that focus, but they do that at the expense of price. they give it away. They buy new business in, special deals, extra discounts, introductory offers. They give away their profit margin in order to win that new business. Net result is gross profit percentage goes down, and all of that extra profit generated from all the hard work of winning new customers is wiped out by giving it away on price. Net result, it's gone backwards, only a little bit in this example, but it's common that it goes backwards. Profits are lower, despite the fact that turnover has still gone up by 11.5% in this example. So, not a great plan. What would I do right now in difficult economic times? Well, actually, I wouldn't be so pushy on my acquisition rate. I'd accept that our acquisition rate may be lower in a challenging marketplace. That is not to say you should go out expecting to win less customers. What you should be doing is be more discerning about the customers you take on. Only take on the good ones, the ones who are going to spend enough money, the ones who don't argue about price. So still go hunting for all those good customers, but be much choosier about which ones you take on. The net effect is your acquisition rate may drop slightly. Your defection rate may get worse. Now, I think that's deliberate. I think you should be targeting to lose some of your existing customers, the customers that don't make you enough money, that don't spend enough with you. You've got to be ruthless about making sure your business resources are expended on your good customers, the best customers who spend money with you, and not wasted on that bottom category of customers who just sap the life out of your organisation. So it's not a bad thing if your defection rate increases, provided it's targeted on the customers you want to lose. Will your transaction frequency change? In a difficult marketplace, it may go down. That's okay. That's 1 in 4 customers buying once less per year. You may get less money out of each sale on average. Let's say it goes back by £10 each sale, 1% less. But if you can do that whilst increasing your prices, and remember, that's not necessarily a headline price increase. That could also be a more controlled discounting policy. Stop giving away money in free delivery. Stop giving away money in extras. If you can get an effective price increase of 2%, your margin goes up to 26.5%, and all those negative impacts of smaller acquisition rates, worse defection rates, less frequency, less spending is compensated for by this improvement in price and improvement in margins. Net result of that is the business has gone forwards by a small amount of money, but it's gone forwards despite the fact that the top line turnover figure has gone backwards by £500,000. That's what I would be doing right now. Make your business better, not bigger. So when we work with businesses on profit improvement projects, we often find most of these key pieces of information are simply not recorded and not reported in the business. If you don't record and report, let's say, average customer spend, how can you know if what you're doing is making it better or making it worse? You've got to record these key performance indicators, KPIs, to know that the actions you are taking are working. We also find in perhaps 99% of cases, getting price right has the fastest and the biggest impact on bottom line profit, more than all the others put together in most cases. Yet hardly any businesses have a pricing strategy. They don't do any research, any investigation into pricing, or adequately train their team on how to set prices, defend prices in this business critical area. If you would like to use this tool to assess your profit improvement potential, just give us a call. We'll send it to you for free. If you'd like to have a session going through your numbers with us on a live demonstration of the software, give us a call. Be delighted. If you want to work on a project to improve your profitability, hey, we'd be absolutely delighted to sit down with you and work out how that could work. What we want you to do in your businesses right now in these challenging economic times is to avoid this classic trap of thinking that bigger is the way to improving profits. Getting better is the way to improve profits. Now, once you've got it better, get as big as you like. But the small improvements in those 5 key profit drivers can double, treble, or more your bottom line profitability. So if you want to know more, give us a call.